Phoenix is growing like crazy, and there are so many people like me that absolutely love living here. But then on the other side, there's a lot of people that think this city is terrible. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of pros of living in Phoenix, Arizona, but there's also a lot of cons. And what it really comes down to is, are these cons going to greatly impact your quality of life? So today we are jumping into the pros and cons of living in Phoenix, Arizona. And I will tell you, the one thing that we aren't gonna talk about today is the weather. Okay, everyone knows the summers are terrible here, the winters are amazing, and that we have over 300 days of sunshine. You already know that. Let's dive into the stuff that you probably wouldn't know until you move here. I am Courtney, your local Phoenix realtor, here to share all the amazing things and not so amazing things about Phoenix, Arizona. So we are going to talk about in a few moments some heavier, meatier topics, but first let's start off with something a little bit lighter, a little bit more fun. And pro number one is the outdoor opportunities available in the Phoenix metro area. So I'm a Colorado girl, and one of my biggest concerns when I moved to Arizona was I was leaving my mountains behind. I really didn't know that much of Arizona or what Arizona had to offer, and I was blown away by the outdoor activities that are available in not just Arizona, but the Phoenix metro area. You have several hiking trails or mountain biking, running trails, scattered all through Phoenix Metro. You have Camelback, which is a really famous one. There's Phoenix Mountain Preserve, South Mountain, and then on the peripheral of Phoenix Metro, there are tons of different trails. You also have Papago Park right in the central part of Phoenix Metro, which is a great place for sunsets. And then you also have lakes within a really short driving distance. You have Lake Pleasant on the northwest side, and then you have Roosevelt Lake on the more northeast side. And then you also have the Salt River, which is a great activity to check out. A lot of people go down the Salt River on either tubes or their paddle boards. And then if you're willing to take a longer day trip, you have Sedona, which is only 2 hours away, Flagstaff, Show Low. There's a lot of opportunities around Tucson area as well. And then of course, you have the Grand Canyon. I will always be a mountain girl, but there's something about the desert that is so magical, and it really has stolen my heart. Particularly in the mornings and the evenings, it is just spectacular. And the longer I'm here, the more places I've been discovering. So as beautiful as the desert is, or the state of Arizona is, there are a lot of parts of Phoenix Metro that are pretty barren. You feel really exposed, and it's really like sandy brown. Now there are suburbs and neighborhoods that are absolutely stunning, and they're right up against the mountains like Paradise Valley, Fountain Hills, or Las Sendas. But then again, a lot of the suburbs are kind of blah. When I first moved here, the exposure, the lack of vegetation kind of bothered me, particularly during the summer when it was a little bit smoggier. But now that I lived here for quite some time, it definitely is something I'm more accustomed to. It doesn't bother me quite as much, but I will say Phoenix isn't gonna be near as beautiful of a city like, let's say, San Diego. Now we're gonna jump into pro number two, and we're gonna talk about income and property taxes. So income taxes actually just changed this year for the calendar year of 2023, and there is a flat rate of 2.5%. And a lot of people that are moving to Phoenix, they're coming from states like California, Washington, Illinois, and the 2.5% rate that we have here in Arizona is considerably lower, like 3 to 5% lower than a lot of the states where people are moving from. And then property taxes are also much lower than a lot of these states. So for example, the median sale price for a home in Phoenix metro area is about $445,000. So if you bought a house for about that much, that median price point, you're most likely going to be paying $2,000 a year on property taxes. So this can fluctuate a little bit between different suburbs or cities within Phoenix Metro, but not drastically. It's pretty minimal. I do want to make a note about our sales tax. It is at 5.6%, which is pretty okay. And then our food tax actually varies between different cities and towns in the Phoenix Metro area, but Arizona is actually currently trying to push push a bill that actually will eliminate any food tax just because groceries have become so expensive in the past couple years, secondary to inflation. So we will wait and see what happens there. Now we're gonna talk about con number 2, and this is one I really don't like sharing, but my goal is to be as honest and as transparent as possible. And this is schools. Okay, so Arizona as a whole is not ranked very well in the schooling department. We were actually ranked 49 out of 51. And this is for the entire state of Arizona. Now, Phoenix still does have good schools within the Phoenix metro area, but if you have kids in a good school system is very important for you. I strongly recommend that you do some research before buying a home or selecting a location to live. Some resources I recommend, niche.com is a great one, greatschools.org, ratemyteachers.com. And the one thing I really advise, I've mentioned this in other videos, but go and find these parent Facebook groups. A lot of these parents will be really, really honest with you and share their personal experience. Another thing to consider is that we have several public charter schools that are highly ranked in the Phoenix metro area, and Arizona is also an open enrollment state. So basically, you can send your kid to any school regardless of where you live, as long as you apply beforehand. So now let's jump into pro number 3. We're gonna talk about traffic and roads in Phoenix, Arizona. So hear me out on this one. I gotta explain this in detail. So Phoenix Metro is giant. It's the 5th largest city in the country. We have over 5 million people, and then on top of that, geographically, it's very large, about 15,000 square miles. And overall, Phoenix is a very new city, and it's not landlocked by, like a lake or ocean or mountain range. So as a result of that, it's been very easy to grow and expand on the peripheral. And they've been able to almost perfectly create this beltway system around surrounding Phoenix area. I'm not gonna lie, Phoenix still does have traffic. We have a rush hour. If you are planning on leaving Central Phoenix 4:30, 5 p.m. and you're driving 20 miles, it's gonna take you some time, but considering there's 5 million people here, and when you compare it to other metropolitan areas that are of equal size, it blows my mind how quickly the roads move. I do hear a lot of people that have moved from smaller communities, like cities that were only comprised about 50,000 people, complain about the traffic. But if you're coming from an area like Chicago, Atlanta, or dare I say LA, you are going to be pleasantly surprised with the traffic here. But there is a con that coincides with this pro. And if you can ask people that are living here about the drivers, a lot of people are gonna tell you the drivers here are quite aggressive. US News actually ranked the top 10 least safe cities to drive in, and Phoenix proper actually ranked number 6, and then Mesa, which is a suburb, ranked number 8. So their methodology for figuring out the least safe cities, they looked at fatal accidents, how many people were involved in the fatal accidents, and then also how many accidents per capita. So unfortunately, Phoenix doesn't have a great public transportation option, and because it's such a large geographical region, it's so spread out, a lot of people do have to drive to get around. A car is really kind of essential to living in Phoenix. So as a result, we are seeing more people driving around here, so it does make some sense that we're seeing more accidents per capita. And it is interesting, most of the accidents actually happen on intersections, surface streets, not on the highway. And I do have a link of the most dangerous intersections in Phoenix Metro, and I'll put that link below. Now we're gonna jump to pro number 4, and we are gonna talk about the job market and job opportunities available here. The unemployment rate is actually pretty remarkable right now. It's 3.2%. So historically, Phoenix kind of has this reputation of whenever there's an economic downturn nationally, Phoenix doesn't fare very well. 2008 is a token example of this. But over the past handful of years, we have seen sort of an industry shift here in the Phoenix metro area. A lot of people refer to Phoenix as the new Silicon Valley. Okay, I know so many areas across the United States are saying that, but regardless, a lot of places in California are moving here because it is much cheaper and the taxes are better. So we're seeing a lot of tech jobs, and we're also seeing a lot of more manufacturing companies. But one of our top leaders is actually healthcare. We have several great hospitals in the Phoenix metro area. I worked in a few of them actually, and I will say We do have good resources for healthcare here, and healthcare being one of the top industry leaders, this is an excellent indicator for economic stability. So the next con we're going to talk about today is actually the food scene here in Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix does have a good food scene. That's not necessarily the problem. The issue is the good food is really hard to find. So when you look up restaurants on Google or Yelp, a lot of the restaurants that are promoted, or restaurants even with higher rating, are actually A, local Phoenix chain restaurants, B, they have great ambiance, but not necessarily the best cuisine, or 3, it's a fancy steakhouse in Scottsdale or Central Phoenix that will cost you an arm and a leg. Another thing too to note is that Phoenix Metro is having more and more up and coming neighborhoods and downtown areas with great vibes. And in each of these downtown areas, there's usually a few great restaurants, but then a lot of the restaurants are kind of your typical American cuisine or bar food, nothing life-changing. But the good food is usually tucked away in this random shopping center, usually has modest reviews, and these restaurants are usually discovered by word of mouth. What I will say is the amazing thing about social media is there's a lot of local accounts that are highlighting these amazing restaurants across the valley, and in turn making it slightly easier to find these hidden gems. Ultimately, Phoenix has great food options, but you probably aren't going to be able to find them just through a quick Google search. So I'm not sure if you noticed, but 2 topics I didn't cover today. The first one is crime and safety, and the second one is cost of living. And the reason I didn't address these is because I don't necessarily think it's either a pro or necessarily a con. It's not that black and white, it's multifaceted. So if you want to know more about these 2 topics, I do have these videos right here going into more detail about cost of living and crime and safety. So again, thank you so much for your time. I always appreciate it. If you found this helpful, please hit that subscribe button, and I hope you have a fantastic day.